Notification requires response. Press Alt plus N.
Hello, everybody. This is your host, Blind Adam, the comic pimp. Rocking the Scores hat, of course. This is, of course, the Awesome Sauce Comics podcast, coming live, or semi-live, depending on when you listen to it, from the Awesome Sauce Comics studios in northern New Jersey. And, I am doing my second take of this because YouTube decided to fuck up yet again. I don't know why YouTube hates me so much, but
Stop recording, cancel button, stop 1021.
So far so good. If you hear me doing that from time to time, it's because I'm a little paranoid, because after doing a 2.5-hour recording, just to have it go into the processing thing of doom, it wasn't cool. What's up with that? I think what I'm going to do because I just last night conducted an interview with a good friend of mine by the name of Joe Cramer. Joe Cramer is doing a convention up in Warren, New Jersey on the 28th of June. And we did an interview last night on the phone that's over 4 hours. I was going to initially play the interview in 2 parts, but that may be a little too much to chew for all of us. Especially when I want to go hang out with a good friend and a good sponsor of the show. That would be Sal's Pizza Corner, Joey Slapnuts, Joey's Awesome Sauce. Sal's Pizza's Awesome Sauce. Testify, testify. And Sal's Pizza Corner, of course, is located on West 71st Street and Main Street, Ramsey. Duh. It's located on West 71 West Main Street, Ramsey, New Jersey, 07446 201-327-8929. If you're hearing background noise, that's my landlord in the background. He's an awesome guy, but we won't tell him that. This convention at the Legion Hall is going to be awesome sauce. And I'm going to play you the press release, maybe do another song, and then we will go to a very long interview, which I'm going to play every day, parts of from every day from now into the day of his convention, which is due June 28th. So I'm going to start with the press release. And of course, we got the Andy Kaufman theme song in his house. Roman quarter. I guess it would help if I hit play. Put the power on.
Literature, American. Comics, Click download your planned comics, cards, CDs, DVDs, sci-fi July, horror, TV and film with Morton and Jane. Blank, Sunday, June 28th, 2015 will be a momentous day for those who love art, film, music and literature. American Legion Post 91 at 99 North Main Street. Morton NJ07885 will host a comic art, sport, non-sport, gaming, cards, rare motion picture and television on DVD, music, graphic novel, book, record, ephemera, prints, posters, pop culture, collectibles, expo and charity auction of epic proportions. Mr. Cramer, a squadron officer and historian's dresses. Historic importance in this pop culture and period memorabilia. Blank, left quote, Jacob Kurtzberg was the primary force spanning 7 decades, from pre-WWII as a youngster through the 90s when he passed on. He was the creative force behind many characters, including Captain America a year before Pearl Harbor, depicted punching Hitler in the face prior to our involvement in the war. Kurtzberg used the name Jack Kirby throughout his career. In the 40s, he created more characters than anyone else in the business. During the 50s, New Frontiers and genre introducing romance, psychic sciences, psychology, crime and police comics. Stan Lee called him the king of comics in the 60s as he ushered in the Marvel Age. Right quote. Blank, Cramer met many of the comics legends in the early 1970s as a child. Left quote, my father took me to my first comic art convention in 1971. I met Kirby, Lee, and the gang many times. Many of the great creators of the 40s were WWII vets. The 9 Jewish publishers primarily created the comics. This is a significant part of Americana and the arts, as more of our illustrious commercial and fine artists were drawn to the medium in the 50s and 60s. The second Renaissance exploded before our awestruck eyes. Our historians in art and culture are today recognizing this. It was Leonardo da Vinci on disposable pulp paper newsprint. Right quote. Blank, there will be a charity auction as well at the expo to raise money for the disabled veterans. Left quote, my father parachuted into enemy territory many times. During WWII, he spoke all European languages, all Eastern Euro dialects fluently. This is why they call it intelligence. This may be key to his secret. WWII heroism he never spoke of. I lost him shortly after my first comic art con to WWII shrapnel in his chest. As a child, I took public transportation and met the cast of Star Trek, creators of Marvel and DC, classic horror and fantasy, actors of film and TV, authors Isaac Asimov, Harlan Ellison, trailblazing Renaissance visionaries Durango at the historic 70s Manhattan conventions. Right quote. Blank, in 1990, Cramer pioneered mixing categories of pop culture. Left quote, I love comics, film, music, books, non-sport, cards, art. I combined the card show, record, show, movie expo, comic and toy con. My events were inspired by my love of the arts, like Durango, Kirby, Roddenberry, Rod Serling. We recognize the genius of these prophets of science fiction are also ahead of our time. I am honored to hold this expo and charity auction at the American Legion. Our veterans who sacrificed so much for our freedom are the true heroes. The artists, actors, publishers who donated for our veterans are great Americans. I love blues, folk, rock, classical soundtracks, so I'm pleased to feature music too. Right quote. Blank. This family-oriented event has something for everyone. Left quote, we will be honoring the Cochrans and Herb Trimp on our tribute panel. Herb we recently lost. Just 2 days after I conducted perhaps his final interview. Air Force pilot, Vietnam vet, Hulk artist, Wolverine co-creator Trimp enjoyed flying his biplane over the Cochran home and buzzing them. Navy vet, Dave Cochran created Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Phoenix for the X-Men. He passed several years back and is survived by his wife Katie. She is currently working as an artist and producer on Dave's surviving thumbnails of his final Minotaurians graphic novel. Please tell your friends and bring the entire family. Right quote. Blank, free admission. All are welcome. Celebrity guests. Many free autographs. Publishers, editors, writers. New books hot off the presses. You can't miss this one. Left quote, I am so grateful to these giants in the industry like Durango, Adams, actors, musicians from shows like The Munsters, The Monkees, Family Guy, Star Trek, all who donate, contribute, support vets, and this expo. Right quote. Blank, Cramer is an artist, journalist, historian, producer, promoter. Phone left parent 570, right parent 828-7722. Kramer is an artist, journalist. Kramer is an artist, journalist.
How about not replaying the last two paragraphs of the press release like 7 times? Excuse me. have an angling on the bet and fiddle, and you produce the show for once. Maybe I will. Maybe I will. How about you make it so that when after we do 2.5 hours worth of an episode, we don't lose it? You want some? You come get some. Pickle bang bang, pickle bang bang, yo. But his convention on the 20th is just going to be awesome sauce. And this is going to be a lot of testifying. And I think I'm just going to break this down over a couple days, much like I did Blind Love. So, you know, like I said, this is probably the longest interview I've ever conducted. I was very grateful to have a good time with my friend Joe last night, and I'm very grateful to be sharing it all with the Awesome Sauce family. So this will be about the first. Of course, I'm always rocking the Scores hat. I thank Scores for their support of the show. Scores, if you need a bachelor party, a divorce party, want to go to a place to practice talking to women, get some drink, get some song, because it's an awesome sauce. West 28th Street, New York City, between 10th and 11th Avenues. The Scores is just amazing. It's like heaven on earth. You should give it a try. Yeah.
Who the hell do you think you are? Who the hell do you think you are?
Yeah, I think I'm Blind Adam. I'm the host.
Historian, producer.
Alright, we're up to the next phase. You know, I also want to just say that, you know, I hope to see everyone at the Clifton Rec Center this Sunday, June 14th, 1242 Main Avenue, Clifton, New Jersey, from 10 to 4. The Awesome Sauce Comics gang will be there wheeling and dealing and vagina stealing. Woo! One more time. You know, we will be having a ball, so come on, come all. www.njcomicshows.com. Tell Johnny Paul Blind Adam sent you. It's going to be awesome sauce. Testify.
I come bearing a gift. I'll give you a hint. It's in my diaper, and it's not a toaster.
Thank you, Stewie. Stewie Griffin into his house. You know, if you don't see me on camera, why most of this interview is going on is because I'm going to be taking a shower. Because I am thinking of going out for dinner over at Sal's Pizza tonight. I usually do it either Wednesday or Thursday night. I should be getting a text from a good friend of the show and my best friend in the world, Jessica, about another podcast that we normally listen to together, called The Garden on jnjfm.com. The Garden airs every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, or almost every Thursday, and before that they have an awesome show if you're into old time radio called The Time Machine. You know, everyone should check out jnjfm.com because they get some really cool programming on there, especially The Garden, which is a great show about spirituality, and you know, The Time Machine, which features a lot about old time radio. So while I hit the showers, I'm gonna play a good portion of my interview with a good friend of the show, Joe Cramer. Whose convention is at the Legion Hall in Warren on the 28th of June, and I may be there, I may not be there. It all depends on what I'm doing for either Super Show. Johnny's Wayne show is that Sunday, but you know, this is for a good cause. This is to help disabled vets. You know, the people that serve and protect our freedoms, so we can exercise our First Amendment rights and everything else we hold dear in this country. So I'm gonna play the interview starting now.
Should we start pretty soon, or?
We can start. All right. This is Blind Adam of the Awesome Sauce Comics podcast. I'm here with my good friend Joe Cramer, who is doing a convention to help raise money for disabled veterans on June 28th at the Legion Hall in, is it Warren, New Jersey, Joe?
It's the American Legion Hall, Post 91, and it's at 99 North Main Street in Wharton, New Jersey. The zip, in case people, it's very easy to get to, but just so, people, when they have that, if they can use whatever they call it, MapQuest. The zip code is 07885, and it's the Wharton American Legion on 99 North Main Street, Wharton, New Jersey. 07885.
Awesome Sauce. And is there a paid admission or is it free admission?
It's free admission, and the hours are 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I'm going to run the charity auction at 2 p.m. So it'll be like a regular comic show, but at 2, I'll start the auction and I'll just carry on for as long as it takes. But there's a lot of stuff. A lot of wonderful people donated.
Yeah, I was reading on the flyer that you sent me that you said there was some people from the Family Guy donated stuff.
Oh, so many people. Yeah. I would have to say the king of, just like Jack is the king of comics. There's another gentleman who respects Jack tremendously and also sees Jack as the king. He's himself the king in so many ways, but he was the king of those who donated, because every time I saw him, he just kept giving me more and more things. And now he wants to send me a box of History of Comics. He wants to open up a box of them and just sign every one of them and then ship it to me. And this is the kind of guy. His name is Sterenko.
Jim Sterenko, the legendary Jim Sterenko, who was the artist on Nick Fury, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as well as 3 legendary issues of Captain America, 110, 111, and 113.
Which one's your favorite?
110, because I love the cover, and it's a battle with the Hulk. You never go wrong in a battle with the Hulk. What's your favorite out of those 3?
Mine is 113. Jack Kirby had to do the album issue, and Jim was never going to make that deadline. Back when I was a kid, and I first met him, I said to him, well, how come you're not doing much comics? How come you? He said, oh, they weren't paying me enough. He never. He was always very real. I did the same thing with my nephew when he was little. I would tell him things, people try to talk baby talk to the little kids.
Yeah.
Well, Jim was always straight up with me, and I'm sure he was with everybody, and that's just his way. But, he was really very successful in commercial art and everything else you could imagine. And, he had, he just is, he's a Renaissance man. He had a career in publishing. Well, later on he got into publishing with media, with comic scene, media scene, and then eventually morphed into preview. So, long story short, though, the man inspired Kirby because he was an escape artist, just like his hero Houdini. So, he was a magician, an escape artist, a musician. He played on some of the same bills as.
Wait, he was a musician?
I'm getting way off topic. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
He really didn't have to be doing comics at all, but I think he really wanted to. He loved comics, and as I say, my favorite tap, just to get back to the actual question, was tap 113. And as I say, Kirby filled in with an album-ish, and while Jim was working on that, he just brought us the ultimate in surrealism, pop art, psychedelic art. There were so many aspects of genius to that issue as far as I'm concerned, and there were things that were very Dali-esque. When Jim was a child, he, that was one of his main influences. had an epiphany at that point. Anyway, long story short, I love that issue. I love that cover. I love so many interior. I mean, I could talk for 8 hours, but let's get to something else. I'd like to go on to one question, and I got.
I just think that's fine. You know, just to inform my listening audience, this may go a little longer than normal, but you know, if you don't like it, get your own damn podcast. You know, that which is just my philosophy. Hey, man, if you don't like something that someone does in this industry, go out and do it yourself. You know.
I agree. Yeah.
So, you know, how long have you been working with the whole disabled vets thing? Because I know you've done a couple shows since we've met a couple years back.
Yes. I'm a 15-year squadron officer in my little American Legion in Dingman's Ferry. That's where I live. And it's a very small, well, not very small, but I mean, it's just, we're in the middle of nowhere, and we don't have a bar. We're not in the county seat. But you know what? All the people there, you know, or in the Justice Department or police work or first responders, you know, but we're dealing with people who are veterans, and then they went on to serve and protect or rescue people, and I'm proud to be among them. My father was a New York City school teacher. My parents are out of Brooklyn, just like people like Presetta and Yakov Kurtzberg. And you know who that is.
Well, let's just inform the listening audience, because, you know, even when you and I talked on the phone the other day, Yakov Kurtzberg, and I hope I pronounced it right this time around.
I know it sounds funny. Yakov would be, I'm always around the Hebrew mystics and all kinds of scholars, and I'm lucky. And the one man said to me, well, I want you in our meeting, but you don't speak Yiddish. But, you know, but the pronunciation here would be like Yakov. And we had my mother, when she came back from Israel, shortly after I lost my father to World War II shrapnel, that he had his chest. And the funny thing was, he never spoke about it. But when I was a kid, watching Captain America and Iron Man, there were these wonderful 60s cartoons where you see the artwork of John Buscema, a great anatomist. You see the artwork of Kurtzberg, you know.
That's Jack Kirby, for people who don't know.
It was just wonderful. But my father must have been thinking, you know, it's funny. My father was kind of like Tony Stark. He had shrapnel in the chest, and then meanwhile, I'm just this crazy kid going on about this. And Captain America with the PTSD, everything was so real. And Stan Lee had this, Stanley Martin Lieber had this soap operatic quality to him that, you know, these things were so, you know, they were Iron Man song?
Yep.
Thursday would be Thor's Day, so they had the crazy song for Thor and the great cartoon. And that was another one with the great melodrama. And then on Friday was Submariner.
Which actually is my favorite out of the lot.
Varying quality to this, you know?
Actually, Namor is actually, out of all those cartoons, is my favorite out of the lot.
You really enjoyed them too.
Yeah, actually.
Very dramatic.
I love them. I didn't discover them until I was in my late teens, because I picked them up on a bootleg tape at a comic book convention. You know, and it had
quality. Did you find that some of the quality was better than others, or was it all good?
Let's see, out of the shows themselves, I actually, quality-wise, as far as story, Namor was probably the best. The thing I liked about the Captain Americas, it was basically the cut-out versions of the comic books.
Yeah.
And the Hulk is like probably in the middle. Iron Man 1, depending on what episodes it is, I'm not a big fan of the Summer Age Iron Man to begin with.
Okay.
Just because to me it's a little quaint when you start using like terms that are not outdated, like red or commie.
Yeah. It was interesting because, Stan was talking about that when he said the military-industrial complex, he's like, so he was saying, he was thinking about that, and elements of that are in Iron Man, elements of that are in the Hulk, and we're dealing with, at that point, the Cold War.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's just some of the, like, when I watch it now, just like some of it seems dated. And not that I don't love it, it just with Iron Man, a little bit more out of all those cartoons. Especially I think like the Black Widow episode.
I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Which is basically just a cutout of Tales of Suspense 52 and 53.
Okay.
Just when they start talking about comrade and stuff like that, it's just like, I don't even think anyone from the Soviet Union talks like that anymore.
I know, it's funny, but I believe those cartoons, and I love them dearly, are a product of their time.
Yes. Alright, I also see in the flyer here that you talk a lot about the late great Dave Cockrum and his wife Patty. Just a little history lesson for my audience who had an awesome run on Legion of Superheroes and then co-curated Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus. Basically, most of the new X-Men, when she first appeared in Giant Size X-Men 1 back in 1975. What was your relationship with Dave and Patty?
Well, I know it's going to sound crazy, but back in 1990, I started running shows in the very early 90s. I ran several shows. Well, I ran shows all the time in those years, and it was a time when they were kind of in the process. It was very exciting in the hologram cards and covers.
Yep.
So they were merging the card and comic industries together, kind of, or they were doing things that were kind of crossing over, and they were all doing things where they were, it's almost like the bubble of 2008 Wall Street, Washington. I mean, what they were doing was they were pretending, first of all, like anybody out there that buys comics or buys collector cards is got to be a moron, and you just tell them, these things are rare. So, obviously we all know, anybody who really knows the industry knows that the comics from the Golden Age and the Silver Age are around, and a few things from the Bronze Age, and
yep. There's some stuff from the Copper Age too.
Yeah, but what happened was they were kind of trashing the industry, but before it all hit the fan, I was doing these shows, and what I would do is the we'd be talking about places like Eldred. You know, I did some work there, and he taught school there. And that was after his Marvel thing. But anywho, he used to fly the biplane. Herb was in the Air Force. Dave Cochran was in the Navy. I think Dave in the Navy. And Herb was in the Air Force. I think Herb did maybe 6 years or so in the Air Force before he landed at Marvel in the 60s. And what happened, though, Dave would be like, he'd be outside putting out the wash or something. Dave would be inside drawing or something. And she's like, hey, Dave, it looks like Kirby's flying over the house again. He used to fly around this biplane. He even after, being in the Air Force, he had his own little plane. And I don't know if he kept it up at Stewart's because, that's all not far from Newark, not Newark, Newburgh. And I used to run shows in Middletown and Newburgh. And,
that's amazing. So, excuse me.
It was cute, though, that he used to fly the plane over and flap the wings when he'd be going. So, you're looking at a guy who's known for co-creation of Wolverine and, pretty much, it looked like he devoted 40 years to a Hulk or so, it seems.
Actually.
For many years. And he's flying over the house of a guy that created several X-Men characters. And it's kind of surrealistic when you think about it,
Excuse me, Joe. But that's kind of like a Wolverine trait, in a way, don't you think? The Wolverine would just do something annoying like that to say like Nightcrawler, just to be like, haha.
Herb is very down to earth, very self-effacing about it. He doesn't glorify himself or whine about it. And, I created the, he says, look, and a lot of people had a hand in the creation of Wolverine. And, but it wasn't really thought of as anything. You had this guy, and then, it's basically going to be Hulk fighting Wendigo, and all of a sudden there's this guy Wolverine for some reason. And the funny thing was, nobody thought anything of it. And of course, he subsequently, later on, became a very, very popular character.
Became Marvel's flagship.
Yeah, it's funny. And he said, well, we didn't really think much of it at the time. So it's cute how they, but a lot of when you talk to the guys in comics, they're not glorifying themselves, most of them. You don't see people. You do have a couple of windbags, and, Jim can tell you about that.
Actually, I'm looking forward to Jim to tell me about that. But, alright. So, Dave's run of the Uncanny X-Men goes from 94 up to, 107 in the initial run, where he gets a hand for, the Starjammers and the design of the Phoenix. But why do you think he was replaced by John Byrne in issue 108?
I can see Starjammers becoming something kind of like the, I can see that becoming just that's popular, because they're even more fascinating in a lot of ways than Guardians of the Galaxy.
Really?
Starjammers are really fascinating. Dave would just create entire teams. He would revamp costumes. He went over to DC, and they said, this book is, let's shove this guy on this Legion of Superheroes. This is really doing terrible. The next thing you know, Dave creates a bunch of Legion of superhero characters, gives them all new costumes, and the next thing you know, they've got a big hit on their hands. They're tripling sales. And they're becoming a big cult following, and people to this day, because there's an element that Dave had, just like when Saranko came on the scene, there was a whole, first of all, comics are great to begin with. When you got a company with Stan just really doing things the way he wanted, and, living his dream when they were about to shut the doors.
And excuse me, Joe, what I found fascinating about the whole Marvel story? It almost didn't have, if it wasn't for Joan Lieber, Stan's wife, telling him, hey, you're gonna quit, just do one comic your way anyways, which turned out to be Fantastic Four #1. The Marvel age almost didn't happen. If it wasn't for Stan, I guess the moral of the story is, listen to your wife. You never know what greatness can happen. Crap. No,
You know, these men are glorified in our culture, and they stick the wife in the background. Well, there's an old saying, behind every great man,
there's a great
is a woman.
Yep. And, the only reason I know that story because it was featured on a good friend of the show, a mentor of mine, a filmmaker by the name of Kevin Smith, who did an interview with Stan back in about 2001 called Mutants and Monsters in Marvels. If anyone wants to pick up the DVD off of Kevin's website, usq.com, where there's a bonus feature where he actually interviews Joan, and Joan just really talks about, that whole story, which I find fascinating. But the same thing with Jack's wife, Rose.
Right.
Yeah, she's the one who actually managed the affairs. Let's see. So I know you do a lot of work with trying to get help for creators in need. Have you ever thought of reaching out to do more with your initiative, Joe?
Well, I know it sounds crazy, but this whole thing with helping the disabled veterans is, I write articles all the time in the various newspapers about, it's pretty much editorials, and it's something, I remember one, last year as a matter of fact, around Memorial Day or Veterans Day, about 4 or 5, I think about 5 articles came out of me very rapidly, and I used some of them again this year because they published a few in certain papers, other papers didn't pick it up. So but I just was inspired, and I always have been, because just like the people in comics, I believe that we have a lot of guys who are doing a lot of good. I mean, I used to be in these groups with all these politicians and officials and so forth, and I'd bring these people to the Legion and try to help with certain things, but they were basically glorifying themselves, and they're looking to get votes, and I'm really sick of political people, totally. But the way I see it, our honorable veterans who give all for what they believe in are used as an expendable commodity.
Yeah, basically,
What happens to the people in the comic book industry? I see them, the comic book industry, even someone like Neil Adams will say, well, is there a dental plan for these guys, or,
no.
And of course there isn't. I mean, in most cases. I mean, when you're a freelancer, work for hire, there isn't much. I mean, maybe now there is. I don't know. But I mean, when at a certain time though, it was just like, to go over it, this one didn't get credit, that one didn't get credit. They should have been paid for this, that, and the other thing. That's, it even goes back to the days of the Popes when L. Ron Hubbard said, I'm sick of writing these stories for a penny, or, sci-fi, whatever, for a penny a word. I'm going to invent a religion and make $1 million.
And just so the audience knows what religion we're talking about, that would be the Church of Scientology, folks, which is a multi-million-dollar corporation. I don't know. I've never read the books. I've thought about attending a Church of Scientology meeting, but I don't think I'd pass any of their tests.
Well, what's funny? I'm sure a lot of people who love science fiction have heard of the Hugo Award.
Yep.
Well, Hugo Gernsback, is sometimes called the father of science fiction, the science fiction pulp and all this. But what we're dealing with, I think it was Howard Phillips Lovecraft and I think it was Clark Ashton Smith. Well, anyway, they were. I think some of the old pulp guys used to allude to him as the Rat because he was famous. He was notorious for not paying his writer. You know, they'd be lucky to get paid at all sometimes. And, you know, it was a shame. I mean, in the old days, Durango would run into people like, you know, the main people that created a lot on Batman. Like let's say people like,
I know the name, Bill Finger.
Yeah, Bill Finger and Jerry Robinson. And if Jim would run into them, they looked like they were starving. I mean, Bob, you know, as Jim points out, they were bad. There was actually a character called Batman in the pulps, and and a lot of the Batman came from the shadow. But basically, the story of Robert Kahn, who changed his name to Bob Kane, was pretty much the opposite of the Seagull and Schuster story. You know, he actually cut his own deal. I think his father was involved in publishing and was legal people, and he had an edge. But what Jim didn't like was what he brought up was, you know, all of a sudden you got people like, first of all, people are making a miserable enough wage as it is in those days.
Oh, definitely. Excuse me, Joe, maybe you can confirm this, because you go back a little further than I did. I'm still like a young kid compared to some people in our circles. Is it true that Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel only got paid like $25 a page?
It was something like that, and I think at one point, they were not getting the credit. I think that was sitting on the desk. I think Sheldon Mayer and a bunch of guys that were in D.C. at the time, national, you know, and you know, they brought that in the 30s, and it was picked up, you know, a few years later, but it was just sitting there, and there were a lot of things. But as a matter of fact, later on, you know, when they had that movie with Marlon Brando, the first Richard Donner film, that was like really a big blockbuster. You know, Siegel and Schuster were in abject poverty, and
is that when Jerry and Joe performed the so-called Superman curse? Was it?
what now?
You are aware of the Superman curse, right?
Oh, tell me about it.
Basically, it is a curse that allegedly, and I can't get confirmation of this, and I wish I could, that Jerry and Joe did some type of curse because they got such a horrible deal on they weren't getting any money from anything cover media, that anyone who had any production in the Superman movie would suffer a horrible fate.
I never heard that.
Do you have a good, actually,
Was there actually things that happened?
they're claiming that's why Christopher Reeve had an accident with with the horse, which led to his untimely passing. They're claiming that's why George Reeves, and I still think George Reeves was murdered. I don't think it was suicide.
No, I think you're right. I think, you know, there were a couple of theories about that, and one that, you know, seemed to be plausible might have been, you know, he was kind of not happy being typecast as Superman, but he also, I guess he would run around with different women, and I think he may have, one of the big wigs of Hollywood, I think when he kind of, I don't think he really minded George dating his wife, but when he threw her over, when he was getting married to some other woman, I don't think he liked George, you know, just casting his wife. I mean, look, stuff that you run around for art, that's fine, but when you cast her aside, you know, and that's one theory that he took.
There's all sorts of
You know, that
theories.
they didn't look like a suicide, but that they think he sent some guys over to. Yeah, but then there was another where the woman herself, they there was something going on in room with the gun and the woman may have shot him. Or, so I think it may always be shrouded in mystery.
Yeah, like I said, if you have access to Google, Google in the Curse of Superman and read the Wikipedia article because it's quite fascinating.
It is interesting because just before you even saying that, I was thinking about, you were right about the two of them. It's interesting and sad at the same time.
Oh, definitely. It's very, very sad, especially when, it took up to 1980 for Jerry and Joe to get credit. You think of Bill Finger didn't get credit on Batman and his co-creation of Batman into 1999, I believe.
I know, and Jim was talking about how he thought it was awful that Bob Kane would let them do all the work and take credit for everything they did, and at the same time, he's getting half their salary, and meanwhile he's making money doing all kinds of other things. And the funny thing was, I think Kane, fancied himself like millionaire Bruce Wayne or Lamont Cranston, who was a shadow. I think he fancied himself a millionaire playboy, and I think he, I don't know, Jim thought of him as a windbag, really, and, he was discourteous to Jim, and, I didn't think that was right either,
Like I said, one of the legends that I met Jerry Robinson at did you ever go to the Michael Carbonero's conventions when he had him in the church?
Oh, of course, yeah. I love Mike and Tony. His dad, Tony, I think is 88 now, and I hope he's all right.
You know what, Jackie?
I was worried about his health, but he's usually the picture of health. And
actually, excuse me, Joe.
That gets health tips from Suranko, believe it or not.
Yeah, Mike's dad, Tony's actually still in good health. He was at my, I co-promoted a Dean Martin tribute show with a couple friends last year at the Hollywood Inn on West 57th Street. And he was doing pretty good. I haven't spoken to Tony at all since then, but, I don't think he's doing pretty good. I met Jerry at one of the church shows, and Jerry was a nice guy.
Jerry Robinson?
Yeah.
Yeah, when Suranko would see him sometimes, he would see Bill Finger or Jerry Robinson or some of these guys in the old days. And a lot of the guys in the comics were down on their luck or, it was kind of a miserable wage. So he would, stick a $20 bill in their pocket and take them out to a nice dinner. And, he was always like that. And, I don't know, apparently Bob Kane was kind of rude to Jim, and I didn't like that. But, that's what happens. Some people are just very arrogant. And a guy like Jim is just always going out of his way to be nice to everybody. And, but when you look at someone like the Carboneros, I get a kick out of them. And I remember Mike when I was a kid, and he's my age. And, he was selling comics at the early shows in the 70s. And I would go there and I'd get the black light posters. Remember they interviewed Tony? I was interviewing him. And Tony comes over, and I was so glad to see him. I put him in the interview, and we're talking about, he knew all the old comic shops in Brooklyn when I was a kid. And there was one in Passaic, New Jersey, it was Grand Street, Brooklyn. And the funny thing is that they knew these guys. And I think Tony and Mike, it's a great family story because, I always saw the family together.
Hey, excuse me, Joe, can I ask you a question? Because you've known them both longer than I have. Do you think Mike gets a bad rap as far as being a promoter goes? I've noticed that
Mike is the way he is. Mike, what do you mean, about what though?
When you mention his name to some smaller promoters, you're just like, Carbonero, how can you deal with him as if there was this kiss of death? When, I love Mike. But
It's a kiss of death, I don't understand.
basically, I've noticed Michael
I'm going to keep nameless.
Give me 1 second.
You think a lot of people are kind of annoyed with him or something?
Yeah, basically that there's this opinion of unjust, feelings towards him for some reason.
Well, maybe they had whatever was making deals with him, or maybe because I remember some people seemed all cranky about him, or I see people, they go back and forth, but over I don't really know, but I know that I've seen people that were annoyed, but I don't. It's funny. I mean, he's almost like Stan Lee because he can sell ice cubes to Eskimos, but if you look, well, that's what they say about Stan, and the fact is everybody loves Stan, and maybe not everybody loves Mike, but I get a kick out of him. I always did, and I think Tony's the nicest guy in the world, and I think Mike's a riot. I mean, I get a kick out of him, and I remember when we were kids, and it's funny, I used to think, my name for him would be like Mick Jagger. Yeah, and then later on, it was like Steve Tyler, and then one of the kids, because I helped cancer patients also, I'm a Tai Chi Chuan master, since I was very young. I studied every night of the week, and I had a long Sunday class with a perfectionist student, disciple to Grandmaster Chen.
1:42. Cancel button. 1:45 select. Cancel button. Stop recording button. Enter.